Maria had grown used to people giving her that look, the one that mixed pity with quiet judgment. The look said, divorced mom, trying too hard, doomed to fail. It had followed her ever since she packed up her life into cardboard boxes, left behind the suburban house she once called home, and moved into a two-room apartment above a laundromat with her 9-year-old daughter, Lucy. The settlement from the divorce had been meager, the child support unreliable. Maria worked odd jobs, cleaning houses, stacking shelves, babysitting when she could, but the numbers never added up. Every month she stared at the bills, tried to stretch her pay, and ended up short. The humiliation of calling her landlord for an extension gnawed at her pride. She told herself she was surviving. But some nights after Lucy had fallen asleep with her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin, Maria sat alone at the table, staring at the peeling wallpaper, and wondered if this was all there was left for her, scraping by, invisible, her dreams shriveled to nothing. Then came the for sale sign. It hung crookedly in the dusty window of a corner grocery store that had been shuttered for years. The paint on the frame was peeling, and the letters for sale looked almost embarrassed, as if they too doubted anyone would care. The store had been a landmark once, old Mr. Chang's place, where kids bought candy and neighbors picked up bread and milk. But after a fire damaged part of the roof, and after Mr. Chang passed away, the store sat empty. Dust collected. Rumors spread. People said it was cursed. Every attempt to reopen it had failed. Maria stopped in front of it one gray morning, drawn not by logic but by a tug in her chest. She pressed her hand against the glass, peering inside. The shelves were stripped bare, the counter scarred with age, cobwebs clinging like forgotten whispers. Yet she could imagine light streaming through the windows, the smell of bread, the chatter of neighbors. Her heart whispered, what if? The asking price was absurdly low, practically a dare. Maria did the math on the back of an envelope. Her entire savings, every dollar scraped together since the divorce, would cover it barely. If she failed, she and Lucy would have nothing. If she succeeded, she didn't tell anyone at first. Not her sister, who would scold her for recklessness. Not her friends from the cleaning job, who would laugh and call it fantasy. She only told Lucy. What if we had our own store? Maria asked one evening as they ate spaghetti made from the last of the week's groceries. Lucy's eyes widened. Like a candy store? Not exactly. More like a grocery store, a place where we could sell food, maybe even cook some. Lucy clapped her hands. Then we'd never be hungry. Maria smiled, though her stomach twisted with fear. Children saw possibility. Adults saw risk. The paperwork was terrifying. Maria sat in the bank with sweaty palms, signing forms that felt like signing away her future. The savings account that had been her safety net drained to nearly zero. When the keys were placed in her hand, she almost cried. Not from joy, but from the weight of it. The knowledge that there was no turning back. The first day she unlocked the store, the hinges groaned in protest. Dust billowed, making her cough. The floor creaked under her shoes. Broken light fixtures dangled like tired soldiers. Lucy skipped through the aisles, her voice echoing. It's like a castle, Mommy. Maria laughed weakly. To her, it looked more like a battlefield. But she rolled up her sleeves. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. At the bakery down the street, two women whispered loudly enough for Maria to hear. She bought that place? Foolish. Single mothers always chasing impossible dreams. At the laundromat, an old man shook his head. Every time someone tries, it fails. Best let it die. Maria bit her tongue. She couldn't afford to defend herself with words. She would defend herself with work. The days that followed blurred into sweat and exhaustion. She scrubbed shelves until her knuckles ached. She scraped grease from the counters, swept broken glass, hauled out garbage bags filled with debris. Lucy helped in her small way, dusting corners, singing off-key songs to keep their spirits up. But even after days of cleaning, the store still looked tired. Maria stood in the middle of the room one evening, her muscles trembling, and whispered, "What have I done?" Lucy, sitting cross-legged on the floor, looked up. "We're making it pretty, Mommy. Don't give up." Maria forced a smile. "I won't." It was during one of those long cleaning nights that Maria discovered the notebook. She had been crawling behind the counter, trying to pry loose a warped piece of wood that sagged from the fire damage. As she tugged, the panel shifted, revealing a narrow cavity. Inside, wrapped in a faded cloth, was a book. Maria pulled it out carefully. The leather cover was cracked, the pages yellowed. Across the front, in looping handwriting, was a name, M. Chang. Her heart skipped. Mr. Chang, the store's old owner. She opened it gingerly. The pages were filled with recipes written in neat Chinese and English, notes scribbled in the margins. Add ginger if meat too fatty. Mrs. Kim likes extra chili. Keep broth simmering, never boiling. Flavor lasts longer. But it wasn't just recipes. There were lists of suppliers, ideas for affordable meals, tricks for stretching ingredients, and in between, journal-like reflections. The store is more than business. It is community. Feed them well. They will return. Maria sat on the floor, the book heavy in her lap. She could almost hear Mr. Chang's voice, calm and steady, guiding her. Lucy peeked over her shoulder. Is it treasure? Maria smiled through sudden tears. Yes, the best kind. That night, Maria lay awake, the notebook on the pillow beside her. Ideas churned. What if the store didn't have to be just shelves of canned goods? What if it could be something more? A place where people felt at home, where food wasn't just sold but shared. But fear pressed down too. She had no experience running a store, no business degree, just a mother with too much hope and too little money. She opened the notebook again, reading until dawn. The words seemed to whisper, start small, feed them honestly. Community will grow. The next week, Maria began to experiment. Using the cheapest ingredients she could find, she tried the recipes in the notebook. Dumpling soup with scraps of pork, rice porridge with preserved vegetables, pickled cucumbers that snapped with flavor. The kitchen in her apartment filled with scents Lucy had never smelled before. It smells like magic, she exclaimed. Maria laughed. It smells like work. They tasted together, tweaking the recipes, laughing when experiments went wrong. Lucy declared herself the official taster, giving dramatic thumbs up or down. For the first time in months, Maria felt alive. But reality loomed. Cleaning had drained her energy, and the shelves still stood empty. To reopen the store, she needed stock, permits, money she didn't have. At the community market, she overheard more whispers. She'll fail by winter. She should have saved her money for the child instead of chasing dreams. Maria clenched her fists. Doubt gnawed at her. Maybe they were right. Maybe she had risked too much. That evening, she sat in the dusty store, the notebook open on her lap, and whispered into the silence, "Tell me what to do." Her eyes fell on a line scrawled in Mr. Chang's handwriting. Begin with what you have. A single bowl of soup can warm a neighbor. The words struck like lightning. She didn't need to stock every shelf, not yet. She needed only to begin. The next day, Maria borrowed a folding table from the laundromat owner. She set it up just outside the store, placing a pot of dumpling soup on top. A handwritten sign read, "Homemade soup, pay what you can." Her hands trembled as the first passerby paused, sniffing the air. An elderly woman asked, "What kind of soup?" "Pork and cabbage dumpling," Maria replied nervously. The woman tasted a spoonful. Her eyes widened, like my grandmother used to make. She dropped a few coins into the jar and asked for more. Others followed. Some paid generously, others little, but all left smiling. By evening, the pot was empty. Maria sat on the step outside the store, exhausted, the notebook beside her. Lucy curled against her, whispering, "We did it, Mommy. We fed them." Maria stared at the darkened street, her heart swelling. For the first time since the divorce, hope felt real. She whispered back, "Yes, we did." Maria woke the next morning with sore muscles and an aching back, but the memory of the empty soup pot gave her strength. She had fed people. Strangers had tasted her food, smiled, and returned home a little warmer. It wasn't profit yet, but it was proof. Proof that perhaps Mr. Chang's words were true. Community could grow one bowl at a time. The notebook lay open on the kitchen table, its pages sprinkled with flour and broth stains from the night before. Lucy leaned over it with exaggerated seriousness. "What's next on the menu, chef?" Maria laughed. "Let's see what Mr. Chang suggests." They flipped through the recipes together. Scallion pancakes, soy braised chicken, pickled radish, ginger tea. Each page carried not only instructions, but tiny notes about customers, memories, and adjustments. Maria traced the handwriting with her finger, imagining the old man scribbling late at night just as she did now. She decided to start with the scallion pancakes. Cheap, simple, filling. That evening, she fried the first batch, the sizzling oil perfuming the apartment. Lucy bit into one and grinned, flakes of pastry clinging to her lips. "Better than pizza," she declared. Maria smiled, though she knew Lucy's loyalty might be biased. Still, the pancakes were good, crisp, fragrant, satisfying. The next weekend, Maria set up her folding table again, this time with two offerings: dumpling soup and scallion pancakes. She wrote a new sign: homemade comfort food, pay what you can. Business was slower at first. People eyed the sign skeptically. A few muttered, "She'll never last." But curiosity won. By the end of the day, both pots were empty. A man with kind eyes pressed a $5 bill into her jar and said, "You've got something here. Keep going." The coins and bills clinked together, modest but tangible. Maria counted them late that night, tears prickling her eyes. It wasn't much, but it was more than she'd earned in weeks of cleaning jobs. For the first time, survival didn't feel like scraping by. It felt like building. But momentum came with pressure. The following week, Maria attempted soy-braised chicken from the notebook. She underestimated the cooking time, and the meat turned tough. Customers chewed politely, but she saw the hesitation in their faces. A few didn't return. Maria went home devastated. She slammed the pot into the sink, broth splattering. "I can't do this," she muttered. Lucy hugged her waist. "It was still yummy. We'll try again." Maria knelt, meeting her daughter's earnest eyes. "But what if we fail?" Lucy shrugged. "Then we try different." Her simple faith steadied Maria. That night, she reread the notebook carefully. A margin note caught her eye. "When the chicken is stubborn, cook it longer, slower. Patience makes it tender." She tried again the next day, simmering the pot for hours. The result was rich, savory, tender. Maria smiled through tears. Mr. Chang had left her not only recipes, but encouragement disguised as advice. Word spread slowly. People began to stop by regularly. The postman who craved soup on chilly mornings, the tired nurse walking home after a night shift, the group of teenagers who loved pancakes after school. Some paid only coins, others more than she expected, but all left nourished. One afternoon, a woman approached the table. She was middle-aged, with a sharp gaze and a reputation as one of the neighborhood's harshest critics. "You're the one who bought the cursed store," she said flatly. Maria swallowed. "Yes, I'm trying to bring it back." The woman studied the steaming bowls. "I used to shop here when Mr. Chang ran it. Best dumplings in the city." Maria hesitated, then offered her a bowl. "These are his recipe." The woman tasted, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded once. "Close. Keep working." And she walked away. Maria exhaled shakily, realizing she had just passed a test she hadn't known she was taking. As the weeks turned to months, Maria expanded bit by bit. With the coins saved, she bought second-hand shelves and stocked them with staples: rice, beans, flour. She painted the walls a warm yellow, scrubbing until the space felt less haunted. Lucy insisted on helping, labeling jars with wobbly handwriting: rice, sugar, tea. Customers chuckled at the crooked letters, but the imperfection made the store feel alive. Still, challenges pressed in. Permits were confusing. Suppliers demanded upfront payment, and some neighbors continued to mutter that she was wasting her time. At night, exhaustion weighed heavy. She sometimes stared at the ledger, wondering if she had made a colossal mistake. But each time, the notebook pulled her back. Start small, feed honestly, the rest will follow. Maria clung to those words like a lifeline. One stormy evening, the lights flickered and the roof leaked. Water dripped steadily into a bucket near the counter. Customers huddled inside, shaking off umbrellas. Maria worried they would leave, but instead they lingered, sipping ginger tea she had brewed on impulse. An elderly man said softly, "Feels like the old days. The store was always where we came when the weather was bad." Others nodded, warming their hands on the cups. In that moment, Maria realized the store was becoming more than a business. It was shelter, community, memory rekindled. She smiled at Lucy across the room. Her daughter beamed back, as if sensing the shift. Not every day was warm. Some days, no one came. Maria sat behind the counter, listening to the rain and fighting despair. Bills piled up, repairs loomed. Competition from larger stores threatened. But then a child would appear, clutching coins for a pancake. Or a tired mother would buy a bowl of soup and say, "This is the first hot meal I've had all week." Each encounter was a thread weaving the store back into the fabric of the neighborhood. And Maria realized that even if profit was small, meaning was abundant. The first real breakthrough came at the neighborhood fair. Vendors lined the street with colorful tents, music blared, children darted between stalls. Maria set up her modest table with dumpling soup and scallion pancakes. At first, people passed by. Bigger stalls with flashy signs and grills drew the crowds. Maria's heart sank. Then a little boy tugged his mother's hand. "Can we try the pancakes?" They did. The boy's eyes lit up. Soon word spread. "Try the dumplings. Taste like home," someone whispered. A line formed. By evening, Maria had sold out completely. Other vendors glanced over with surprise. She had been underestimated, dismissed. But here she was, feeding a crowd. As she packed up, Lucy hugged her fiercely. "See, Mommy? We're not cursed." Maria laughed through tears. "No, sweetheart, we're blessed." That night, exhausted but elated, Maria opened the notebook again. A line she hadn't noticed before leapt out. "The store's strength is not profit, but trust. Feed them with honesty, and they will feed your soul in return." She whispered into the quiet, "Thank you, Mr. Chang." The road ahead was still uncertain. But for the first time since risking everything, Maria believed in the possibility of success. Not overnight, not without struggle, but through patience, resilience, and the recipes of a man who had once believed in community as fiercely as she did now. She closed the notebook gently, as if tucking in an old friend, and allowed herself to dream of tomorrow. The summer heat arrived heavy and relentless, pressing down on the neighborhood like a wet blanket. Maria wiped sweat from her brow as she rearranged jars on the shelves of the little store. The paint had faded in places. The ceiling still bore scars from the old fire, but the air smelled of ginger, soy, and scallions. It smelled alive. Business was steady now. Not booming, not secure, but steady. Maria could cover rent and bills without begging for extensions. She even set aside a small jar of savings, labeled with Lucy's handwriting, for emergencies. Every coin inside felt like proof that their lives were mending. Yet with growth came new challenges. One morning, Maria found a slick new food truck parked across the street. Its bright paint shouted fresh fusion wraps, and its speakers blasted music to draw a crowd. The young couple running it handed out glossy flyers, smiling with practiced charm. Customers who once lined up at Maria's door drifted over. Maria forced a polite smile, but her stomach twisted. The truck sold flashy dishes at low prices, wraps stuffed with colorful fillings, smoothies in plastic cups. "Trends change," a passerby said. "People want something new." Maria swallowed her fear. That evening, only half her dumpling soup sold. She sat in the empty store, the notebook open on her lap, whispering, "What do I do, Mr. Chang?" Her eyes fell on a note scrawled in the margin. "Don't chase the noise. Trust the quiet hunger for honesty." She sighed. Simple words, but hard to live by. The next week, Maria resisted the urge to copy the food truck. Instead, she leaned into what made her different. She cooked slowly, carefully. She greeted customers by name, asked about their families. She told stories about the recipes, how Mr. Chang had once written, "Add ginger if the meat is too fatty," or "Patience makes broth deeper." Some drifted away to the food truck, but others stayed. They came not only for food, but for the feeling of belonging. One afternoon, Mrs. Rodriguez from the laundromat stopped by. "The wraps are fine," she said, "but they don't taste like home. Your soup does." Maria smiled, relief warming her chest. But fate tested her again. A health inspector arrived after an anonymous complaint. He checked every corner, every jar, every label. Maria's hands shook as he lifted lids, peered into cupboards. At last, he closed his clipboard. "Clean, honest work," he said and left. Maria slumped against the counter, tears of relief slipping down her cheeks. Someone had tried to sabotage her, but she had passed. Lucy hugged her fiercely. "See? We're strong." Still, the experience rattled her. The store was fragile, always one step from collapse. Autumn arrived with crisp winds. Maria began experimenting with pickles and preserves from the notebook, lining shelves with jars of bright vegetables. Customers loved them, especially as gifts. Word spread beyond the neighborhood. A small magazine even featured her store in an article titled "Hidden Gems of the City." Business improved, but Maria refused to forget the lessons of hardship. She kept her emergency jar, counted every coin carefully, and reminded Lucy that success was not guaranteed. Yet in quiet moments, she allowed herself pride. The true test came one winter evening when the power went out across the block. The food truck shuttered immediately, its neon lights extinguished. Larger stores closed their doors. But Maria lit candles, brewed ginger tea on a small gas burner, and opened her doors to neighbors seeking warmth. People crowded inside, sipping tea, sharing stories, laughing in the flickering light. Children played tag between the shelves. Elders reminisced about old days at Mr. Chang's store. Maria looked around, her heart swelling. This was more than business. This was community reborn. Lucy leaned against her. "It feels like family," she whispered. Maria nodded. "It is." Months later, a letter arrived from the city council. They were hosting a community food festival and invited Maria to represent local businesses. Fear and excitement tangled inside her. She had never catered such an event. But Lucy insisted, "We have to show them what we can do." They prepared tirelessly. Maria perfected her dumpling soup, scallion pancakes, and jars of pickles. Lucy designed a hand-painted sign, "Maria's Market Kitchen, honest food, honest heart." At the festival, the competition was fierce, chefs with sleek stalls, banners, and staff in uniforms. Maria's booth was modest, her borrowed tablecloth slightly frayed. She nearly wilted under the weight of comparison. Then the first visitor tasted her soup. His eyes widened. "This is real," he said simply. Soon others followed, word spreading like wildfire. By evening, Maria's booth had sold out. A food blogger posted photos, calling her dishes comfort in a bowl. Maria packed up with trembling hands, overwhelmed. Lucy beamed. "We did it, Mommy. We're not small anymore." Maria hugged her. "We'll always be small, sweetheart, but small can be mighty." Back at the store, Maria opened the notebook once more. She had nearly memorized every page, yet she still found comfort in its worn edges. She whispered into the quiet, "Thank you, Mr. Chang. You gave us more than recipes. You gave us hope." She placed the notebook in a glass case above the counter. A relic and a promise. Customers often paused to read it, marveling at the faded ink. Maria would smile and say, "This is where it all began." Years later, the store thrived, not as a chain or corporation, but as a humble hub of the neighborhood, shelves lined with jars, the air fragrant with simmering broth, laughter echoing off the walls. People came not only for food, but for connection, for the reminder that survival and kindness taste better than any flashy wrap or smoothie. Maria, once dismissed as foolish, became known as the woman who revived the heart of the street. One evening, as snow fell softly outside, Maria closed the shop with Lucy by her side. The girl was taller now, her handwriting neater, but her eyes still bright with belief. "Mom," Lucy asked, "do you ever regret spending all your money on this place?" Maria looked around, the glowing shelves, the warm light, the framed notebook above the counter. She thought of the whispers of doubt, the nights of despair, the small victories that had built into something lasting. "No," she said softly, "because this place saved us." Lucy smiled. "And we saved it." Maria hugged her daughter, the store behind them humming with the quiet joy of community. The curse had never been real. The treasure had always been knowledge, patience, and the courage to begin again. And Maria knew, deep in her bones, that as long as they kept feeding others with honesty, they would never be truly hungry again.